Gonna be a pool workout today. Gotta get those lats back. I've been gone from the gym for approximately 5 days, and I really did not have any motivation to go here today. I just wanted to skip it, but can't do that because that's not how you get results. Today is one of those days when it really feels like it's going to be spring. Then you realize that we're not even halfway through February yet, and March is still a really weird and cold month here in Sweden, and April you can't really count on, so we're still 2.5 months away. It feels very good to have a little bit of sun because we are not spoiled with that here in Sweden. Hallå!
Hey!
Hej! Vad gjorde du?
I bought some good tools.
Copyright claim. Copyright claim.
This,
What is that?
it's for threading.
Ja. Gänge.
For example, M24.
Ja. We call this svarv in Swedish. Show them. What did you create?
I made this. It's for a blacksmith. It's for oil. This is the old one.
We say in Swedish, oil nipple.
So this one is put on the machine.
You can't hold to the display, you gotta hold in front of the camera.
He can fill the oil in there, and then he grew this on.
You gotta do it in front of the camera.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's supposed to work.
So,
Any wise words?
wise words.
Yes.
Don't touch the steel when it's hot.
I want to talk a little bit about being motivated and what drives you, because I think that motivation is not something that you inherently have. It's something that you have to find and have to maintain, but it's also something that disappears when you reach a certain point in your career or in your life or whatever it might be, and then ultimately you're reaching the success paradox.
What's up, dude? I hate when all of my devices ring at the same time. Like, it's so annoying. Good morning, my dude.
Good morning or good afternoon. It's like 3 p.m. here. I wanted to ask you what you would say to someone that isn't motivated in doing anything. Say, for example, that they just pick up the camera and they lost their motivation to actually do something, or they want to go to the gym but they lost their motivation. What is your take on being motivated?
So first of all, I think motivation is something that you have to learn. Not everybody has it, obviously. I can only speak for like what works for me. I have a lot of those moments where I don't want to do anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, today is a perfect example. I had to do all this stuff for school this morning. I still got to work my 9 to 5. I know at some point today I still got to get a YouTube video done. I got to get the gym done. I still got to get back, do kids' homework, you know. So for me, motivation is like, if I don't do it, how will it get done? If I don't do it, then somebody else will do it. You know, when I'm going through those times where like, dude, I don't want to do this, or I don't feel like it, or I could just take today off and do it sometime next week. I just think about that. Like, you know, sometimes we need to step back and realize how thankful we are. And a lot of times we think things are terrible, and that's the reason we don't want to continue doing something when it's really not as bad as we think it is, and there's people in far worse situations. So I always try to keep that like embedded in my mind.
Would you say that the more successful one becomes, the less motivated one becomes to keep striving to be successful?
Yes. Yes. It's kind of crazy how that works, right?
Yes, I call it the success paradox.
Musicians, rappers, and stuff like that, right? A lot of times people say, yo, when somebody is on their way up to being famous, that's when we get the best music. They're the hungriest. They want to be the most successful. So they're putting their best foot forward to try to make it to the top. And then usually once they get up there, that's when you see the decline of their music. So I do think, as you become more and more successful, I think the sense of urgency comes down. I think the complacency goes up because you feel like you quote unquote made it or that you're quote unquote successful. And I think that's where a lot of people end up failing at.
I want you to head over to Terry's channel and give him a subscription that you have, because he's definitely deserving that. If you like camera gear and that sort of stuff, but he's also doing a lot of motivational talks that I personally like, and he's a good friend of mine. So link in the description. Thanks so much, Terry, for joining in. I appreciate it. Purple is going to represent want. Red is going to represent need. For me personally, I think that motivation is tied to how much I actually want something rather than how much I need it. And one of the best examples, I think, is when I was doing bodybuilding. Being able to push at that amount of level as you do as a bodybuilder for several years really requires you to want to reach a specific point rather than you need it. And the more you want something, the more motivation you tend to have. Say, for example, that your doctor is telling you that to get rid of the pain that you have in your upper left shoulder, you are going to have to work out. You don't really want to work out, but you need to work out. So what happens is you don't really have that much motivation to actually go and work out. But if someone were to tell you that I'm going to give you $1 million if you go and work out 3 days a week from now on and 2 years forward, because you want to have $1 million and you probably also want to have a better physique. So what would happen then is that your motivation would skyrocket. And the same thing kind of applies if you don't set up any goals for yourself, or at least it does in my case, because if I don't have any goals that I've set up for myself, then I don't want to do the effort that it takes. I'm only going to do the exact thing that is needed from me to just move on at the pace that I'm currently going. But I'm not saying that this is true all the time, because there can be some occasions where you need to do something in order to get to where you want to, even though you don't really want to do the thing that you need. I remember when I quit my daytime job at DHL, I didn't really want to go there for the last couple of months, but I needed to go there in order to be able to get to where I wanted. And the need kind of outweighed the want in that case, because if I were to do what I wanted, then I wouldn't go to work, but then I wouldn't have any paycheck. So some occasions I think that need outweighs the want, but most of the time your wants is going to outweigh the needs. And that kind of brings us back to setting up goals for yourself, because the more goals you have, maybe part-time goals, the closer you're going to get to where you actually want. Your motivation is also probably going to be depending on where you're in life, what kind of position that you have. If you're living in a well-off country, if you're having a good economy, if you're not stressed, and all that kind of stuff as well. I would say that one of the biggest motivating factors that I've ever had in my entire life was when I had my blood clot and realized that this could end right now. Because when a life-changing event happens, it usually gives you enough motivation to keep going for a very long time to reach the point where you want. And to stay alive is a big enough goal for you to actually keep going, doing the things that you need to do in order to maintain a vessel that you can proudly move forward in life with. But the fun thing with motivation is that it fades off the more successful you get, when it comes to work at least. My success ever since dropping out of high school has been somewhere around down here when it comes to both money and everything else, except for friends and family, because in that case I'm going to be over here. But all in all, I'm going to say that during 2014 I was somewhere around here. I didn't have any motivation to actually gain any success, and I wasn't motivated to start anything except for my clothing line. And since that has been going bad for a pretty long time, I was feeling very down about not having any success. But as I realized that the apparel brand would never take off and I accepted it as a loss and a failure, I also learned from that and gained new motivation to start pushing the content out and making this YouTube channel. And as I was doing that, I'm gonna say that my motivation started to rise all the way up until this point. So in 2018, 2019, my motivation was sky high to keep pushing for this. And during 2019 and 2020, it went really well. But the more success that I've achieved on my main channel, the less motivated I've started to become to actually work. So I think that when you reach a certain point in your success, you're gonna end up in something that I'm gonna call the success paradox, which is that the motivation that you initially had to get to the point where you wanted to be is not gonna be there when you reach the point where you want it to be, and instead you're going to have to find a new motivation so that you can reach a success within a new field or in a new area or in something else that isn't where you're currently at. Because if you're not finding another goal, if you're not setting up another goal for yourself to reach, then you're just going to continue all the way down. And what point is it in having a really successful life but you don't have any motivation to do anything?